Hello and welcome back, Art Arbor community, to episode 18 of Rooted, the Art Arbor podcast. I'm your host, Jake Vanderhayden, joined by my co-founder and co-host, Andrew Arden Witter. And
Hello,
he's going to introduce our very special guest today as a part of our Modern Artist Optimization series.
Yes, we are overjoyed to have another wonderful guest on the pod. Today we have Drew Denham. Drew Denham is, when we thought about growth mindset, we sat down, the four of us, me, Tim, Jake, and Andrew Peters. We said, well, who's someone who could really do this? And I put forth Drew. I said, I don't know anyone else who's invested so heavily in themselves for their own growth and their mindset and the perspective on life than Drew. So without further ado, I'm so excited to have him on the pod today to just go unplugged for an hour, popping off on the growth mindset.
Love it, guys. Good afternoon to you. And thank you for the opportunity to be here with you today. Look forward to kind of what transpires and what conversations we have. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. So as someone who, like, what inspired for you just the initial spark for devoting time, energy into changing and growing just you as a person, individual?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And unfortunately, it was one of the darkest times in my life back in 2019. So I was dating someone for quite a long time, and that relationship ended. And in kind of a way, my life ended. You know, I wasn't suicidal or anything like that, but it was just very devastated. And I really was very, very lost in my life. And thankful that I'm a very determined and disciplined and open-minded person. So I knew I needed to make some significant changes in my life, and that starts with one day at a time. So you can see the big stack of books behind me. That was part of it. My faith journey was a big part of it. Meditation, reading, listening to podcasts, all these different kinds of things, step by step, day by day, to consistently transform who I am and the direction and the trajectory of my life. But to answer your question, Andrew, it was really one of the most darkest times in my life. And I'm just so thankful that I had an open mind and I had the growth mindset to start picking away at this and ultimately start to heal myself. And it is an ongoing journey. And I made so many significant strides over the last 5 or 6 years since that time. And I'm a man of faith. Glory to God. I'm so thankful for that, the special people in my life, and just really my determination, grit, and all these wonderful things that I have done, and consistently do on a regular basis to be the man I am thankful to be today. So long story long, it was a tough time in 2019. And I hope and pray that, when people come across challenging situations, whether that's death, relationship loss, job loss, etc., that they take it as an opportunity to know that with the right mindset, with the right, strategy, so to speak, moving forward, that you're going to come out of this a better person, a more improved person, a healthier person, which is an overall benefit to the world, to your friends, family, and your community.
Wow. So you mentioned healing, like there was a time of darkness and a form of something changed. Like what would, from a principle or from a root perspective, what really is healing? What is that?
Well, I mean, I think healing it's a decision to pursue it, and giving yourself grace and being patient with yourself to not know exactly what that entails, right? So like I didn't know, I didn't meditate anytime prior to 2019. I rarely read any books prior to 2019. So when you ask that question, to me, it's the decision in consistently making good decisions during that process and really throughout your whole entire life that will lead you to ultimately the best or better version of yourself. One of my favorite quotes is, every cost or decision, or every decision that you make is either a cost or investment to your future self, right? So Tony Robbins often says that our life is shaped on decisions. So what are the quality of your decisions? And are you consistently making good decisions in all the different areas of your life? So when you ask about healing, it was just knowing that this moment sucked, this season sucks. I'm in a really dark place. Again, not like suicidal or anything, but I was just really like anxious, depressed, couldn't get out of bed kind of thing. And my whole identity, or a major part of my identity, was wrapped up into this relationship. And when that relationship ended, I kind of fell apart. And I thank God for her. I thank God for the opportunity to date and be in a relationship with her, because if it wasn't for that experience, I wouldn't be the man who I am today. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, that's really powerful stuff, because I mean, I think a lot of people know what they need to do, but there's maybe a gap between that and then the action and especially the action of compounding over time. What for you moved you from thinking to actually doing?
Well, I mean, I think the problem maybe with some people that maybe aren't experiencing healing at a pace that they would like, we're in a world of instant gratification. People want the quick fix. I'm generalizing, but people want more of a quick fix. But my approach was, let me try to do something different. Ed Milet often says, if you want something you've never had, you need to do something you've never done. So if you want to be healed, you want to be whole, you want to live a peaceful, fulfilling, joyous life. I don't know what that necessarily looks like, because I didn't experience that for the first 35 years of my life. I'm now 40. So I would say it's that approach of knowing. I don't know what exactly that'll look like for me or for a person that's going down a similar journey, right? But I'm willing to read a book. I'm willing to go to church. I'm willing to start listening to better music, watching different content. I'm willing to say goodbye to certain friends that no longer align with my mission moving forward. So it's these decisions, these good decisions that if people consistently make over time, they'll develop into, a better, well-rounded, better version of themselves.
I just, as it relates to this whole overall topic, I wanted to give a definition of what a growth mindset is. I mean, I think we all know what growth is, but this mindset specifically can be defined as the belief that abilities, intelligence, and talents can be developed through dedication and hard work. And it sounds like, through your healing and through your process, that got you going. But I just want to know more specifically about, how did you find that belief? And then what steps and specific actions did you take to develop those qualities as you really came into that growth mindset?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the belief came where I just realized at the bottom of the barrel, so to speak, that I just knew that you can't necessarily change things that are going to happen in your life: death, disease, loss of jobs, etc. So I knew that you can't control that moving forward. We're not in control. God's in control. So the belief came where I just knew that, and I needed to increase my faith. I wanted to increase my faith. And the belief was that I can't necessarily control the things that are going to happen in my life, the things I just mentioned and more, but I can believe that on the other side of this, I'm going to become a better version of myself. I know there's going to be tears, there's going to be blood, there's going to be sweat, so to speak, so it's going to take a lot of reps. It's often said that success is built in the reps. You can apply that same principle to personal growth. And again, that's where a lot of people fall short, because in the world of instant gratification. So the belief came knowing that I was going to be okay, knowing that I'm going to walk through this dark time. On the other side, I'm going to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then the steps, to answer your second question, Jake, the steps were what you see behind me: going to church, interacting with like-minded people, meditating, just all those different kinds of exercise, the kind of food, and all the chemicals that are in our food and drink. So making all these changes in my life, but it's not just one area of my life. It's my relationships. It's my business. It's my faith journey. It's my overall contribution to the world. It's everything. So when I think about success in life, it's an abundance of different things. It's just not siloed to one specific area of your life. So to recap, the belief came when I just knew that I would be okay if I just kept the pace and continued to move forward step by step, day by day. Every day might look a little bit different. Someday you take when you're in a really dark time in your life, sometimes just taking a shower and going for a walk is a win for the day. And I'm sure people can relate to that. And that was the 2009 experience, was one of those kinds of experiences for me. But I just knew if I kept the pace, kept the vision, and continued to move forward in these different areas of my life, that I would become who I am today. And I'm still working on things right now, even as we're 6 years or 5 years from that time point. But, personal development and a growth mindset is a never ending, journey, a never ending journey. But not looking at it as like, a pain in the ass, so to speak. It's more of like, if this area of your life, like this is like almost like the foundation. Faith is your foundation, but personal growth too is part of your foundation. That once you start to make some significant transformation, all the different areas of your life will follow. And I'm blessed to say that that's true for me.
Wow.
I really like kind of that overall action plan. And there's a lot of layers to peel through there for someone if they're just starting this journey and feeling that they have a fixed mindset and they want to move into that growth mindset. I think individuals could all approach it differently. If they're, more introverted or extroverted, they might take different approaches. Some people might want to go out to a mixer and talk to someone, or some people might want to read a book, or some people might want to do both. It just kind of depends. But I'd say the most powerful thing for most people would probably be to start by finding a mentor or finding like-minded people that could assist them in their journey. And that's definitely like what we're trying to do in our community of artists here and creatives and entrepreneurs in general, as it all ties together in our Arbor community. But just wanted to touch on, something significant that the two of you met. How did that come to be? What's the origin story? And I think it definitely ties into this idea of like-minded people and how.
Sure. Yeah. Drew, do you want to answer that, or want me to answer that?
Why don't you let it rip, and I'll
okay.
add.
I remember I was looking up networking. I was like, man, I got to network more. It's probably and no, it was actually going on probably 7 years ago, because I wasn't 21 yet. So I was 20, and we found this same kind of networking event. It was, I think, something through the Grand Rapids, like Young Professionals or something similar. I was at this place over by Founders Brewery, and I went there. I was like, all right, let's just see what it does. See what happens. I've never done something like this before, and for me, I talking about earlier, like I knew it'd be uncomfortable, because when you were talking about your you were talking about a lot about faith, your belief, and I just got this feeling like discomfort does not equal negativity, right? Discomfort, if anything, can equal positivity. So I thought, I go out, I do this thing, it's different, it's weird, but I'm more just curious to see how it goes. I went there, I met a couple people. Some of them were trying to get me to sign up for their network marketing, and I was like, no, I'm good. And I was more interested in finding people who I just thought I would vibe with. I looked over, I scanned the room and catch a vibe, walked around a little bit, got a drink. It wasn't alcoholic, it was like sparkling water. And
you were underage, by the way, at that time.
I was I was. I don't think I think I had to be 21 to be there. Something like that.
In.
I did sneak in, yeah. Yeah. And I looked over and I saw Drew hanging out with one of his friends. And I thought, these guys, the way they were dressed, they looked nice, they looked sharp. I just liked their energy and that they were there. So I just cold approached them. And I was just like, that's the whole point of this thing, right? So I just went up to him, and I'm not even sure what I said much to you after that. I just remember having an excellent conversation, and then we just never really dropped off since. We've gone in and out of time, but at the same time, it's like we always find ways to reconnect, whether it's months, days, weeks, or years.
Totally. Yeah. And I'll add a couple things. So it was at the Tin Can in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yes.
It was like, it was 2000. 2019. And
Yep.
Andrew, we were at a networking event, like he said. And what I remember most about him is he asked me a great question. And John Maxwell often says that, good leaders ask great questions. And when you have how old were you? 20, 19?
I was 20. Yep. 20. Yep.
So like a 20-year-old coming up to you and asking, what's your life purpose? Or I think it was something along the lines of that, Andrew. It caught my attention, and we've been building and growing our friendship ever since, and have done different things together over the course of the last 5 or 6 years. But it really boiled down to, we met at a networking event, and Andrew was going around asking very good, great, intentional questions to a handful of different people. And I happen to be one of them. And here we are today.
Wow.
Yeah. I do want to circle back though. You talked to answering Jake's question. You mentioned faith and God and in your faith journey. And this is from a religious perspective, but say if you're someone who's not religious or that don't necessarily identify with that, I still want to make the correlation here and how it's very applicable to have what I would consider a really powerful practice of faith. Faith to me is universal. It isn't owned by anyone or any system of belief. Rather, it's available to all of us, and I think it can provide great relief, especially in those hard times. And I think it's easy to then when you're in that sort of space, then also make time to talk about networking and going in places that, like a church or in the Christian faith, just somewhere that is energetically healing. It could be about anything for anyone. It could be going to nature. I highly recommend starting there and just being a part of nature and communion in the sense of connecting energetically with the things around you and being mindful. And that to me can be so powerful. And it doesn't have to be anywhere that might be rather strange for some. I mean, not everyone can go to organized religion, I think, and fully connect with it. I think it's available to anyone to still benefit from the things that are talked so heavily about in those spaces, if that makes sense.
Totally. And if I could add on to that, just getting quiet. So we're in the most distracted society or culture than we ever have been in our life. We are bombarded. So like businesses work to grab people's attention. That's the goal, right? Or the goal of many businesses is, how can I grab or capture someone's attention so that they can buy my product or service? What does this mean, or where am I going with this? When's the last time someone, any of you, anybody, that you got quiet and maybe you sat in a room or went in the woods and sat for an hour without a phone and just you took in the beauty, you got silent, and you started to really understand who you are and what you want to do and what your vision is moving forward. So you mentioned, Andrew, like not everybody has their, is into religion or has a faith background. That's totally fine. But I would encourage folks to spend some more time in silence, because, and I would suspect it's going to be pretty uncomfortable for most people. It's uncomfortable for me sometimes, to be fully transparent, but I know it's a part when we talk about decisions prior to that. I know it's essential to consistently or continually to heal and add more peace to my life, add more joy to my life, and get silent, because I believe in the silence you really figure out who you are and maybe what you're meant to do on this earth and your contribution to the world. So for those folks that don't have a faith or religious interest, my suggestion to them would be, spend some time, dedicated time every day, every week, get silent, and embrace any potential uncomfortableness that comes with that. And know on the other side of that, you're going to become more, transformed. You're going to become more mindful. And mindfulness is seeing the world more clearly. It's often defined that way. So how can you see the world more clearly when we're bombarded by every corner that we go to? So I encourage you to get quiet, get silent, get into nature. It's often said if you spend 20 minutes 3 times a week in nature, that it sparks your creativity. So let's get creative. Let's get silent. And it's a beautiful thing.
That makes me think of an experience that Andrew and I had together a few times, but back to the very first time we tried, I'd say, I don't know if extreme is the right word, but an extreme silence was a sensory deprivation tank. We went floating together. We were trying out some alternative practices, and that was one that we tried, and we went back. It had such a profound impact on me, because if you think about silence, even maybe the only time that most people have silence is when they're going to sleep at night, or they're in their bedroom. And if you think about that, you still hear like all this humming, and you hear ambient noise, or maybe you have a fan running. Like, it's never truly silent. So until we went into that tank and you had no sound, no feeling, I mean, the water's like right at your body temperature, like the whole experience, you were just in an incubator, no light. And I was really forced to be in that moment. And the moment, like, it felt long at first, but then it like flew by the time they play like a little song to get you out at the end. But you just had no sense of time. I think even sometimes, when you're in like a man-made structure like your house, like even just like the furnace vent coming on, that was 5 minutes. Like, you have this sense of time and rhythm with sound. But I think until you truly get silent, you don't really get to hear yourself think, and like you said, Drew, we're getting bombarded constantly. We have a direct tether to businesses basically in our pocket constantly. And our attention is for sale. We are the product, of course. But I think that is a true place where you can really find yourself. I had some profound thoughts in there, just being alone and truly isolated from any of that sensation going on around me, and really allowed me to truly relax and have some deep thoughts, because I knew that I didn't know what time it was. I had no sense of what was going on outside of there. I couldn't think about anything. I couldn't check my phone. I was just completely silent. But yeah, Andrew, do you have any thoughts on that experience either?
Man, I remember that. Yeah, it's pretty vivid. I mean, it's interesting how moments like that, getting really quiet and silent and making almost time for just you to be with you, are really, really vivid and memorable. I deeply enjoy getting quiet and silent. And so up until that point, I had already spent a lot of time meditating. So getting quiet and silent in that sort of space was familiar and welcomed. It was the first time it didn't necessarily fly by for me, because it started off rather quickly, because it was, I meditate, 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. So you get like 20, 30 minutes in, and then your brain starts to be like, all right, but we're still here. So that first 20 minutes was fine. Then the last 4 minutes after that, you just kind of become, it's like it almost feels like it's like a carpet cleaner to a carpet, like it's agitating you. And then like you become agitated in there. And then the tank almost just, all those salts just kind of sucks all the bad vibes out of you. I remember coming out being so relaxed, like a fully cooked noodle, right? Like just fully relaxed. Like I went in stiff, uncooked, came out fully cooked. And I mean, I still now find time to, on occasion, go and still do that practice. I think it is a journey. It's a practice. It's a discipline, because if you don't go, it's like not meditating. You don't meditate for a long time. You don't do exercise. You don't do this thing. You should do it. It's good for you. Yet you still don't do it because you haven't designed the habits in your life to do the thing. So you have to then design your life, or make the habits and create the discipline through acting and overcoming your old ways, to then get something new that then benefits you in a greater capacity. So for me, it's been like finding those things that, it's like a sauna. I love the sauna. Like I love the sauna. And it's really hard. And going 10 to 15 minutes is the hard part. Getting in there for the first 5 is fun. So I find like I enjoy meditating. The first few minutes are really fun, but then the next 10 are kind of hard. So it's like this enticing of do the thing. There is a level of enjoyment. Like you do like it because you do feel good afterwards, but also just know that, we're still pushing ourselves into discomfort, and then recognizing yourself. And then sometimes I'll even give myself like a little reward or something, now you watch Netflix for 5 minutes or something. I don't know. Like whatever helps you get through that wall. So the deprivation tanks were one of those kind of sparky moments for me. That lead me into even now, just knowing how to be that still, knowing how to be that calm and relaxed. That's available to me even in this moment. I don't necessarily have to go out and, do all these things to get there, because I know it's just in my body that I can remember those moments. And even power visualization has been key for me. And then that in those tanks, it's incredible because you can go so visually creative, exploratory. It's like almost psychedelic. It's crazy. It's worth the $40, right?
Oh, totally. I've experienced it before. It's actually been on my list to go do again. So I'm glad that you guys shared it, and sounds like it was powerful, or a powerful experience for you too.
Yeah, and I think, Andrew, you mentioned that sensation of coming out as a cooked noodle is a good reminder of like how much tension and anxiety and all these things that we hold in our body. And we really like it's just normalized. Like we're almost expected to hold all that in because we're constantly on a grind. Like there's always an expectation. The clock is always ticking. There's always a to-do list. You never really complete that. But I think allowing yourself to have that clarity and to release, I would say that experience is definitely, I wouldn't say uncomfortable, but for some people, just getting in that tank is a little discomforting. I'd say something like that could push you into a new type of comfort that's not the comfort that you think you enjoy, which would just be like, checking your phone and watching Netflix and doing all these mindless things that we find ourselves doing that aren't truly intentional and truly quiet. And I think that keeps you in a fixed mindset because you're really not progressing on any of your goals or things that you want to accomplish because you're distracted, you're tense, your mind is somewhere else, and you're not able to really get there. And I think that comfort is really a fixed mindset, comfort in the sense of society, taking care of you and buy this thing, watch this show, scroll on this feed, those types of things are a comfort that keeps us away from a growth mindset.
Yeah, really. It is so interesting to think about the intrinsic and extrinsic things that happen, external, internal. We have almost this duality that plays with us where we have to function in this place and do the thing, while at the same time the structure itself is so attention heavy, and attention is your energy. Like when you're putting your attention, you're putting your energy. That's what the we consider chi. I totally recognize that, because when I really focus on my body and close my eyes and feel the sensations and have a body check-in, that can be so healing just in that moment, and realize, wow, I had so much tension in my body, or I had some discomfort here, and now I need to correct course here, or else I could end up in a really uncomfortable position where I'm maybe in my bed for a few days just because I didn't listen to my body and listen to my how I was feeling, and then went out and did something mindless and caused an injury or sickness. Right? It's mindfulness is really key. So Drew, I want to know what has your journey of mindfulness been like in and out of meditation, the challenges with sticking to it or not sticking to it, changing it, Yeah,
it's a great question. I mean, it's evolved over the years. There were times where I would meditate 60 minutes in the morning, and that's changed to about 10 or 15 or 10 to 15 minutes or so, and where I would read 35 books or 30 books a year, and now it's it's 15. So just kind of, my coach likes to say, just like dancing with life a bit. Like if something's feeling a little bit heavy, or if it's uncomfortable, I think that's something that you should pursue. I think it's often said that what we want most in our life is on the other side of what we fear the most. So, but to answer your question, my mindfulness journey has changed over the years, and have you read the book The Miracle Morning?
I'm not that familiar with it. No,
Okay.
I've heard of the book. I don't think I've read it. Maybe I've read the forward or something.
Well, it's a great book. I would encourage you and all your listeners to read it. So it has an acronym called SAVOR. So it's I gotta make sure I remember all the acronyms. So it's silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. And all of that, in my opinion, could be implemented into your morning routine, and it can be in a different order, and it doesn't have to be like this robust, long, morning routine. So I think a couple years ago, the challenge that I ran into is like my morning routine was turning into like 2 hours, and I just found out that maybe that's just not. It's maybe becoming more of a chore than something that is just something that I want to create, so that has shortened significantly. And I'm sure this season of life where I'm in, where the morning routine is 40 minutes or so, I'm sure that'll change too. So, but to answer your question, it's constantly evolving. It's changing, and I'm learning new things every day and removing things that maybe that no longer serve me or are not helping me as much as maybe they help other people. And I think you have to lean in and understand what makes sense for you and make those necessary changes and be consistent and disciplined, with those changes and see how you feel and give it time. Give it time, and with repetition, consistency, you'll start to see the different areas in your life change, which is a beautiful thing. The mindfulness, seeing the world more clearly, which is something I hope and pray everyone is pursuing.
You made a really interesting point there that kind of hit me. Growth is not action; it's a mindset, right? So growth mindset isn't the activity, but rather the mindset. So there are activities that I think facilitate a greater growth, sure, like all the things we've been talking about. But at its fundamental point, it's about cultivating the mindset, not about making sure you meditate 30 minutes a day for the rest of your life.
Sure, but it leads to action. I mean, intentions without actions are almost worthless, so to speak. So it is the mindset, but I think it's also the grace that you give yourself that sometimes I'm not going to be able to hit the 30-minute meditation or read one less book or 10 less books, whatever that looks like per year. Yeah, but it is followed up with action. It is putting your best foot forward or putting a foot forward every day, but also giving yourself grace and going back to our earlier comment that it's going to ebb and flow, and that should change. Your personality should change over the course of your life, and so as that changes, certain things in your life will change, and your actions will change, and your morning routine will change. So I think it is having a growth mindset is seeing the world more clearly, but it's also followed up with actions, right? If you're not going to meditate, if you're not going to do your affirmations, if you're not going to pray, if you're not going to do go to the conferences, and I can go on and on and on, all the different things that you could do to pursue freedom, enlightenment, and achieve kind of this perspective on life, right? Because it's a perspective shift. There's a book called Mindfulness, and it's one of the top rated personal growth books out there. And the author talks about a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So it's also the words that come out of your mouth, right? So with enough repetition of the things that we say, it really shapes the trajectory of where we're going in our life. So what are the words that you're saying? Your beliefs, your actions, and your words. What are you speaking out into the world, to the people that you interact with every day, your friends, your family, your clients? And it's really in those situations where you can see if this person has a fixed or a growth mindset. So it starts with the belief, and then you have the actions, and then with enough repetition, you start to see maybe challenges or trials in your life as in the past as devastating or detrimental, but with a growth mindset that, yes, this season sucks, or yes, this certain situation sucks in my life right now, but I know that there's going to be good that I can pull from this eventually. So that's to me, that's the growth mindset, action and intention, but also obviously the belief of it.
Let that sit for a moment there.
Yeah.
What's
That
that?
sizzle, baby. Let that sizzle.
Yeah, we sizzling. We hot and ready on this Friday afternoon. You feel me? Jake still got that that LA time, so he just cracking noon. But yeah, so it's a beautiful thing, and watch your life transform. You know, when people do this on a regular basis and they're consistent with it, and yeah, I hope and pray that for everybody. And you know, Andrew, too, you mentioned something along like faith of when challenges happen, you know, but I think you agree with this too. But having some kind of like, I personally believe in God and Jesus Christ, but I know that's different for everybody, which is totally fine. But what I'm getting at is, you know, having that faith in the good times and showing that appreciation in the good times and showing appreciation in the bad times and the shitty times and the struggling times, and just having that constant connection, that it's not like a lifesaver, life valve when you're in a very terrible situation, but it's almost that consistent growth mindset, that relationship is always there. That mindset is always there. Not to diminish any feelings or emotions or challenges that someone might be having in a particular moment. But the growth mindset to me is meeting people where they're at, but also realizing that things are going to be okay. And if I just continue to put one foot in front of the other every single day, then you know, there's going to be some learning or some benefit to this situation. You know?
Absolutely. I think it's really important to remember that, you know, it also is not an easy thing to have this mindset, like you said, because you go through so many challenges, and it's all about your perspective on those challenges. And I think it's not even these big life altering challenges, but the small day-to-day challenges, like the discipline to go, you know, work out or meditate or read or develop yourself. Those are, you know, not the comfortable, easy options for everyone always. And making that intentional decision to improve yourself, and in that belief that if I do work hard, that this will pay out. And sometimes you don't see that right away. Like, the best example is if you go to the gym, you're not going to see the results you want right away. Like, our world of instant gratification. And I think always like aspiring to move yourself towards that desired state through hard work, and having that belief that hard work will eventually translate if you're persistent is really important. You know, as we're on our journey here in the Art Arbor team, it's been a few years and we've had some setbacks, and we've really found some challenges, you know, as we're trying to develop a platform to build this community and have artists invest and engage in each other. And there's obviously a lot of challenges to that, but we've, you know, pivoted several times to really serve our mission. We always come back to, like, is this activity that we're doing and this work that we're putting in going to serve our mission? And something like this podcast absolutely serves the mission. If someone's listening to this, you know, we're here for you in our community. You know, our metaphor that we constantly come back to with even the name of the podcast, Rooted, is that we're using that metaphor of the arbor of trees, right? We're all growing together. Some trees are 500 years old, some are little seedlings, but we all have these same roots. We're in that root system, and we're all, you know, absorbing the same nutrients, and people are at different points in their growth, but we're all growing together. And I think it's also important in that metaphor to think that not every seed that gets planted roots and becomes something that grows. Sometimes it needs a little light, it needs a little water, it needs a little fertilizer, it needs something consistent effort to get it to grow and continue on that path of growth. But that without those things, it doesn't always work. And also that, you know, each tree has its, you know, its own unique qualities and species and things. So we really like that metaphor because it really represents all of this mindset in general, that it's not, you know, some trees, you know, a seed drops in the ground and it grows with no effort, and some take a little bit more than others. But there's definitely a profound impact of that belief that you can grow, and that consistent effort will lead to that growth mindset that gets you to where you want to go. And that's where we're at right now in our pivot. You know, we only get 100 views on our TikToks, and we're not letting that get us down.
Yeah, really.
And we've been persistent on this challenge that we've been in with the great Gary V.
Oh yeah.
And Stan. It's called the Social Sprint, and they've encouraged us to grow our network and our community and post every day. And it's been a challenge for us to continue to believe in ourselves that this is going to pay off. But in that system, you know, that's how it works. It's a, you know, feeding that algorithm, you know, that's what we have to do to grow. So, and to, you know, in all reality, to get our message out to as many people as possible in the modern world, it's a reality to be online and to be consistent there. So we're doing that for our community and for that growth. We know that end goal that we have in mind, we have it in our head, but we're continuously working right now through networking to bring it all together. So
it's a skill, right? Like you just mentioned, it's a skill, time, cultivation. It's like, you know, ironing or making a sword or something. I mean, it's like anything. You put the time in, you get the result. If you don't put the time in, you don't get the result. And the result just can take more time or less time. Or a lot of times we get too attached, especially myself, with how much time things do take, or maybe our pay level of patience. So, I mean, for me, patience has been maybe one of the largest kind of gaps for me. Like if I really was able to be locked in on patience, or whatever that even might mean, and have the faith, and I would probably be more relaxed. I wouldn't be in a mode of emergency or a mode of stress. What is patience for you, Drew? Where does it play? Is it something you think a lot about? I hear so much about it, but like, where does that play?
It's a great question. I mean, I think patience is, you know, being willing to wait for something that is not necessarily meant to be yours, or maybe not ever be yours, and being okay with that, right? So having the faith to maybe understand that this is maybe not meant for me. And the patience part of it is just understanding that maybe it's not meant for me in this season or ever. And, you know, I mentioned the instant gratification, but also patience. You know, as a side note, the use of our cell phones, the smartphones that we have, has made an impact in how patient we are. And because we can Google something, or we can throw something in ChatGPT and get an answer within 20, 30 seconds. So we are conditioning ourselves with our iPhones, with our Android phones, to be impatient people. So I would say patience is almost like a super skill right now. So can you be patient, you know, with your family, with your clients, with your vendors? Not everything that we do is super time sensitive. So when you ask that with patience for me, Andrew, and this is kind of the theme of our conversation, but that has evolved over the years, right? So when I first started real estate or in this journey, you know, I probably wasn't a very patient person, and felt the need to respond to clients or the realtors on a very, very quick, you know, timeline or basis, you know. So, but I've also learned that that's detrimental to my overall well-being, you know. So patience is, to me, to sum it up, is being okay if something is not, that something that you asked for has not come to you yet, and just knowing that and having the faith that at this time, this season, that it's not meant for me. But I'm gonna continue to put my best foot forward. I'm gonna continue to lead with love and kindness and generosity and all the things that you and I, Andrew, we speak about on a regular basis. And if it's meant for me, it'll be mine. And I know, Jake, you just talked about the consistency and the reps too. So, you know, if we're talking about a certain sales number, or a certain amount of investment properties, or a certain amount of views for your podcast, right? Having the patience to know that success is built in the reps. And if we're consistent every single day, or every 2 weeks, I heard you guys say for your pod, that we're going to continue to do it. We're going to continue to bring in great guests and post on a regular basis, if that is a healthy thing for you guys to do. And sooner or later, you're going to hit your goal. And, you know, unfortunately, again, I said this a couple times before, but people fall short because the instant gratification. So super skills in our culture today. Number one this is not number one or in particular order, but be patient, right? It would be respectfulness if someone has a different a perspective or opinion than you do. It would be communication. So are you listening to what I'm saying? Am I listening to what you're saying? Am I present? Are my feet where I'm at? Am I really locked into what you guys are saying? And really emotional intelligence, which composes of self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. So if you could hone in on these skills, which sound almost like I don't want to say basic, but it's just they're evaporating in today's culture. So patience is a beautiful thing. Self-awareness and emotional intelligence is a beautiful thing, and that doesn't happen overnight. And kind of going off on a tangent here with the emotional intelligence, but that's what I just said. That's what patience means to me.
Beautiful. You've said this a couple times now. X is a beautiful thing, and that just shows the level of gratitude that you have in your life, because a lot of people would really probably never use that phrase, that anything is quite beautiful. Talk about artistry, right? Like, what is artistry? It's beauty. So when you're now looking at the beauty of life and all of it holistically, not just the highs or not just the lows in a certain way, but all of it, and all of it has its own beauty, that to me is beyond positive and negative, but in a real place of growth. That is something I just took away right now. I'm taking notes on it right here. I mean, this has been great. So I want to double click on that.
No, I appreciate it. And, there's so much beauty in front of us, guys, like to be able to, if you guys think about it, for Jake to be in LA, Andrew to be in, Southeast Grand Rapids, I'm in Northwest Grand Rapids, and we're having this conversation. We can pay for the lights in our rooms. We can pay for the internet, pay for our cell phones, the clothes on our back. When's the last time that we actually stopped and thought about that? We have money in our pocket to buy ourselves dinner tonight. The list goes on and on. So like, just remind yourselves, and I'm not saying you specifically, I'm talking about people in general, but reminding yourselves of all the wonderful, beautiful things that are happening in your life. And I can go on and on about examples, but I feel like sometimes people fall short, or rather, I meant to say lose sight of that. And I've been there, and it's just a beautiful reminder for us three, and also for, the guests that watch this pod. Start your day with 10 things that are that you feel so thankful for, and feel it. Tony Robbins always talks about actually feeling the emotion, not just writing down, my house or the apartment that I have, but really feeling the gratitude behind it. Then you can actually do it, especially in the world that we're living in today, where the just affordability in almost every industry is a challenge, so spend the time. And don't be so focused on where you're trying to go without having gratitude or losing sight of how far you've come. Another book recommendation is called The Gap and the Gain, and it's by Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. And the whole idea behind it is, instead of looking at the gap of where I am today and where Drew Denham is going to be at 50 years old, 10 years from now, look at the gain and look backwards of how far I've come since the 2019 date, how far you've come, Andrew, since the 2019 date. And I'm sure, Jake, you've made great strides in your life as well. So it's a perspective shift to think about how far I've come, and expressing that gratitude. Because again, I think culture reinforces, especially social media, and comparison of, I need to get to X. I need to get to, 1,000 or 10,000 views. I need to sell $20 million in real estate in Grand Rapids. Says who? So it's also making sure you realize and look backwards. I think they always say, always measure backwards about how far you've come. So I encourage you guys to think about that this weekend and moving forward, and certainly your listeners, and I will do the same.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, the power of what you're getting at here at the end is the power of a challenge, right? The power of even just challenging yourself. There's all these little ways to kind of look at this game in a way of it actually being a game, and not just it being this unfortunate circumstance, but a game of life. And this challenge, maybe I could challenge myself to rethink about X, or challenge myself to do this thing. And it could only be for the day or 2 days or the weekend, or it could be for 5 minutes or 2 minutes or 3 minutes. It doesn't have to be this massive thing of, I'm going to sit down and meditate for 60 minutes for 60 days every day. Like I've tried that before where you just hop on and, well, the news is you typically don't stick with it. I got about 20 days in and said, I'm done now. I quit. I would have been much more probably helpful. And I if I would have stuck with a smaller, more kind of aligned habit instead of just this random challenge that I did, but that was put onto me by my own kind of preconceived notions. And we have these notions, and in order to fully understand them, I feel like you have to get quiet. We were talking about earlier, like you have to get quiet in order to really hear what is it that I'm currently doing, what shifts can be made. And that's a part of the mindset itself, is to reflect. And so this part of reflection that you were talking about, looking back, measuring back, and seeing it in a beautiful light, and not just this burden or this bad thing, or I should have done this or I should have done that. And it's common to even get those things, and we can recognize them upon this reflection, but we don't have to fully embody or experience them more than just the recognition. We choose after that, right? Like that's a choice after that. So I'm really curious, like, unless Jake, you have something you want to speak on with that, but I have something. I have a few questions.
Well, I've got something. Keep those questions in the queue. Right off of what you just said, talking about a simple experience like, oh, I did it for 20 days and I quit. And there's a reason why, and it really is the instant gratification, like Drew mentioned earlier, how we've really rewired our brain to not be persistent anymore, right? Like we always need to see something right in front of us instantly. As instant as now ChatGPT can give you the answer to any question you have in the world, right? So if you're trying to do something, it really comes down to rewiring your brain. And my book recommendation, which I've probably brought up on the pod at least once or twice, but I'd highly recommend the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. And this book gets down into the details of how you can build these daily habits and teach yourself to make them habitual and something that you truly believe in by these different practices. The book really gets into all that, but there's also an app now, which is a really good tool to help you with those habits. And sometimes, I think having some accountability is all that it takes. And the accountability could be you logging into that app every day and punching in, I drank a cup of water, or I meditated. And, that in itself is a little dopamine hit. That's a reward system, right? That you can check these things off your list. And I'd highly recommend that because, basically the idea is that these small things that you can do on a daily basis can have a huge impact on you in the long run. And it's just that consistency of performing these good habits that you want to set, and really reflecting on what do I need to do to continue to grow. And for most people, I feel like that's very hard to keep track of in your head, especially in our distracted society and all the noise that we have going on. You might need to just focus, and journaling is a great way to do this as well. But if that's not your thing, this app might be your thing. Or just having an accountability check-in with someone that a like-minded person that wants to see you grow, or someone that's on the same journey as you, whether it's a spiritual journey, a physical journey, a business journey, an art journey, whatever it is. Having someone that I think it's good to have someone that's further down the road than you, having a mentor that can show you, the GPS, so to speak, where's your next, where should you go, what should you avoid, but then also having someone that's driving right behind you in the same lane as you, that you can have that related experience. Because I think that touches on what Drew was just saying about the gap. A mentor can be a really good thing, but that person can also make you feel that gap intensify. You need someone that's in the moment with you, I think, as an accountability partner most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. Accountability. I mean, how, Drew, accountability, what does that, what does it look like for you? Is it something that is on the forefront, something that is maybe a habit within itself? Network,
That's, accountability. So I'm blessed to say that God has given me the skill of discipline, or the skill of discipline. And so I am a pretty very disciplined and determined person, so if there's something that I know that will, improve my life, provide a healthier life for me moving forward, I will do it, and over this last season, though, the last year or so, there's been a couple things where I found out my discipline and determination is not enough, which has helped me increase my faith and, just my devotion to the Lord and just needing his support and his grace. So that's been a big change for me in 2025. But overall, over the course of my 40 years of being on this earth, I haven't really needed much accountability, other than the last year with a couple things, so I'm blessed to say that, very thankful. And that's something that I'm blessed with. There's other things that you guys might be blessed with that as well, or blessed with different things, right? We all have our unique skills, skills and what we can bring to the world, so to speak. So I haven't really needed any accountability partner up until this point, or up until this year.
Care, I'd be interested what made maybe some of those parts of your life require some accountability. Like what changed? What you're doing good, you're disciplined, you are determined, do these things, but then maybe a shift happened where you realized there was a level of community required.
Yeah. So one example was coffee. We talked about it offline. I don't know if you guys got it on your on the pod with going live, but just realizing that, as I've gotten older, caffeine and coffee really impacts my sleep. And just something about, drinking a few cups of coffee, a half a pot, and some examples, a full pot, and some examples that it's not for the best interest of my overall health and future self. And it's been really hard to shake, so just like praying to God to help me shake this addiction, or maybe idol that I've had with coffee or caffeine in itself. So I haven't really had a community, shared that with specific people in my life. There's been a couple people that have helped me, think of different options moving forward. And we spoke about, I'm a week into something different, which is fine. And that might sound like as a basic thing for some people, but it's a real thing, so that's that's something that's happened to me this year in that regard.
Yeah, there are things you talked about strengths earlier, like strengths and weaknesses, and in those moments of weakness, there's some things that you still are required to get through. Let's say, but I'm not the best at giving up coffee. I'm the same way. I went a week without coffee. And it was like 9 days or something like that. And it was intentional. I wanted to go a week. I went a week, and if I had have gone any longer, I would have needed someone's help to hold me accountable to tap in on that, because of the stranglehold that coffee has on me. I'm okay with it sometimes, right? I love coffee. I think it's an art form in itself. And we got a little coffee this morning, got a cortado, a little bit of mocha, It's a wonderful thing to have, a little French press. I love a good food and drink, don't get me wrong, but there's that level when it becomes almost controlling or maybe addictive in your mood, how you feel. At that point, then something has to change, right? And so I think that's awesome. What has it been like for you now? You're, I think, 6 days in, you've replaced it with a different kind of habit, and still maybe a little morning drinky, but just not coffee anymore.
Right, totally. And I've switched to mud water, which is an acquired taste. Certainly doesn't taste like black Starbucks coffee, but that's okay. Sometimes you got to make some changes. But also, what's different for me in this season of life in 2025 versus prior years is I used to be very rigid. So meaning if I have a couple meetings next week, and I'm probably going to enjoy one black coffee with these individuals that I'm meeting with, right? So not being so rigid on myself, where I'm still going to enjoy a black coffee here and there, but I'm not going to abuse it like I have been for, the last 5, 6, 7 years of half a pot to a full pot a day, give or take, So not having that I guess the playfulness and just not the rigidness on my put on myself to go out and experience different things, but just having it as a specialty item and not a everyday kind of thing.
Wow. Yeah. I really resonate with that when there's a moment of this has to change, just because it's just not working anymore. And then to give yourself the grace to say, or the understanding, the compassion, the kindness, the gentleness to, because we're always so rigid sometimes, at least a lot of, I think, people can be wired that way. And it's very hot or cold or instant gratification that can lead to some of those things, like it's yes or no, it's this way or that way. Like, to then give yourself a little softness to then have a moment of transition, and times of transition is to be different. Like, that's just, I think, unrecognized collectively. And I give that to anyone when there's a moment of you're in a dark place and, it's time for a change. Like, that's really when talk about your darkest hour, like your darkest moments, like you were talking about, 2019 being in a dark place that really shifted. Like, when you're in those dark places, that's the moment that you really need the most grace and compassion to help give yourself that space to transition into that place of newness that is a more optimized, designed lifestyle, mindset,
Totally.
Let that one sit again. We're still sizzling. But yeah, I'd really, you got that whole shelf of books. I know we've called out several authors and books and ideas and things, but while we were offline, you were mentioning on the top shelf there, those you sort them by priority, right, on your shelf. So
yeah.
So what's on that top shelf? A few more, and maybe some of the ideas and takeaways and impacts that those books have had on you.
Yes. So The Gap and the Gain is up there. So I mentioned that. So Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan, they wrote a handful of books together. So The Gap and the Gain and Who Not How. Who Not How is a very, very popular personal development book. Another book is called Wealth Can't Wait. And that's a really good book about building, long-term generational wealth. So I would suggest that to anybody looking or have interest in that space. Main Street Millionaires. So that's a recent book by Cody Sanchez, and talks about all the baby boomers that are going to be exiting their businesses. In a lot of cases, they don't have children that want to take on that business. So talks about just all the different ways to approach how to analyze a business. So Main Street Millionaire by Cody Sanchez is another really great book. So there's about, I'd say 150 over here, 125. Those are the few. I think I even mentioned a handful before. So certainly your listeners have 5 or so books that they can pursue if that interests them.
Yeah. I know we have to wrap here shortly. Is it cool if I do a couple of rapid questions?
Let's let it rip. But one last, okay. Jake, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that having a few things to tap into, and I'd also encourage, if our audience is not used to reading either business or personal growth or these types of books, to challenge yourself to read it. I think oftentimes, our goal is to help artists to not have to think about business, but the reality of where things are right now is that, if you're an artist, the most powerful skill that you can gain, we talked about superpowers earlier. I think artists have a lot of EQ. They have a lot of respect. They have a lot of understanding of the human condition, but you're so wrapped up in that discipline of practicing your craft and really expressing yourself that you don't get into all this business stuff. And, anyone that has even a formal or non-formal education in art, there's really not enough emphasis on, how to be an entrepreneur, how to grow in your career, because at the end of the day, you need to connect the dots from your art being something you create to putting it into a market and having an audience or a customer or something that appreciates what you do to sustain you. So I feel like challenging yourself to read some of these business books, even if you don't think that they translate over to you, I think they could really make a big impact in seeing how that could impact your career, because really everyone should strive to be an entrepreneur. It's a big challenge and it's uncomfortable for a lot of people, but I think a lot of these especially, I love Cody Sanchez. I think she's a great voice of making things possible out of what might be seemingly impossible, and finding a community of like-minded individuals, etc. Would highly recommend Cody as well. I think those things would be key for anyone to tap into a little bit, but especially an artist that's trying to get on this growth mindset of how can I grow my career and become an entrepreneur. Part of it is to think like an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Nope, totally agree, Jake.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to serve up a few questions here. I find myself, and I know a lot of people work with this, the overwhelming to-do list. I'm overwhelmed that my to-do list is too long. Something basic like what should be my new mindset around a to-do list?
I think you got to look at your hourly rate, and you can the calculation I think is take whatever you make in 2025 and divide it by I think 2,000 hours to give you your hourly rate. So if we have a to-do list, I know Jake mentioned this, like the never-ending to-do list, you have to look at where is my time best spent. And it's not necessarily is a financially best spent, in my opinion. It's also about where can I add the most value or provide the most impact. So I think it's, if I look at just do a quick, I think it's 2,000 hours. So if someone made, $50,000 a year divided by 2,000, they make $25 an hour. So if someone makes $25 an hour and they have different tasks that maybe they could pay someone to do, it's in their best interest to do that, in my opinion, if they have the wherewithal to pursue that. So you need to look at, and let's say some of the listeners can't do something like that. You need to look at what are the most important activities. Where can I provide the most value, the most impact, and the most, financial abundance in these different activities? Because, problems are a privilege, and there's always going to be things to do if we're talking to people who are like-minded, like the three of us, and pursuing different endeavors and trying to benefit themselves, their futures, and their families. You got to look at where are these most critical tasks, and how can I think about outsourcing some of these other tasks to other individuals who would be at a lower rate, but also can do it better than I can do it.
Mm.
You feel me?
Attention, absolutely. That's where we really get more output. I think, to quickly touch on that, it comes down to opportunity cost, right? Our time is limited. So if we're going to spend 2 hours cleaning our house, or we're going to spend 2 hours working on our business, maybe you got to think of that opportunity cost. 2 hours cleaning my house will not grow my business. It will not get me my hourly rate higher. It's only going to keep me at the same or maybe even lower. Now, in the short run, you might be saving some money doing it. But like you said, like, I am definitely not the best person at cleaning my house. I'm not specialized in that. So, if I can grow and get myself out of that comfort of my routine of, I do everything myself, there's some huge value there.
Totally.
Wow. Okay. Last question. Hope Dealer. It's in your name. Drew D. Hope Dealer. What's up with that?
So shout out to my friend Mason Maurer. He got me this shirt, Mason, or the sweatshirt, this really nice sweatshirt, a couple years ago. And he is a hope dealer, and I would consider myself a hope dealer as well. So what it means to me is just really when you meet people, let me back up. I think why I'm on this earth, one of the reasons is to help people realize their potential before they see it in themselves, and helping people really, remove any limiting beliefs that they have. So when I think about Hope Dealer, when I think about Mason, when I think about other trailblazers in the area and in our communities, I think about helping people. I think about helping them realize their potential, giving them hope in a challenging situation, and having the emotional intelligence to meet them where they're at, and not diminishing their feelings or diminishing the challenges that they're facing, but meeting them where they're at.
Yep.
And with time, being able to softly encourage them and help them get to where they want to go. So we need hope. You can't have faith, or you can't have hope without faith, in my opinion. And, so just really leaning into that and being a bright light in a relatively dark world right now. So keep shining bright, keep shining your star, so to speak. And I believe that's one of the reasons that I'm on this earth. And shout out again to Mason Maurer for this sweatshirt. Hope Dealers in Kent County, we getting it, boy.
Hey, let's go. Wow. This was a great pod. I have literally a whole page of notes here. Thank you again for taking the time, Drew, and everyone listening. Please, I want you to have a challenge from this pod for you in your life and your cultivation of the growth mindset. Pick a challenge, pick a timeline. Is it 1 time? Is it 4 times? And just send it and see what happens.
Thanks, everybody. As we wrap up this episode, make sure to check everything we'll have down below. We're going to put some book racks down there, some links to follow along with Drew and what he's up to, and also to our stand store. If you'd like to get in touch with the Art Arbor team, we'd love to help you with this growth mindset and many other things that we have included in our Modern Artist Optimization Index to help you grow and help you embrace that community and your career as an artist. So again, thank you, Drew, for your time. This was episode 18 of Rooted, the Art Arbor podcast. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.